Hello, everyone. I feel as if I am an influencer right now, which I'm going to be honest makes me feel very powerful. And yes, I am wearing my plant shirt today because I feel like throughout a bunch of the films in the showcase, we have this like common thread or a couple of different common threads, one of which being like nature. So here I am wearing my plant shirt for this occasion. If you are not familiar with who I am, my name is Ian Cessna. I am the instructor of the high school filmmaking course for Milwaukee Film. I'm going to be your MC and interviewer for the evening. Before you hear from any of our students, though, I'm just going to give a quick overview of what the course is, what the students have been up to this semester, and a couple other details, just kind of busy details so that you know how this Q&A is going to work. So first up, I'm just going to give a quick shout out to some of the sponsors who made the course possible this semester. Those being Wisconsin Arts Board, Hertzfeld Foundation, and the Greater Milwaukee Foundation. Thank you all so much for your contribution and for letting this class be available to the students free of charge. So yeah, at this point, I'll talk a little bit about the course. It's open to any students in the greater Milwaukee area that are interested, any high schoolers, I'll specify. So we had a range of students from freshman to senior year of high school, representing all basically different high schools. I think the most we had was 3 from the same high school. Otherwise, they all were coming from different high schools around the area. This is the second year of the course. So we got it started and up and running last year. Which infamously was also the first year of COVID. So halfway through the course, unfortunately, we had to switch virtual, which had its challenges just because we didn't know that was coming. But coming back this year, we were 100% virtual. We kind of knew how to tackle that. And being 100% virtual came with its challenges and its benefits. Some of those benefits, I think, actually helped the films that you saw in this showcase. I think we really had to focus on the students like using the resources they had around them and kind of doing the entire process from start to finish. So most of the films you saw today were just completely made with the one student behind the creative wheel, and they all did absolutely incredible with that. Other benefits of being virtual, we were able to have 2 students join us from actually a little bit outside of the Milwaukee area. We had one student from Oconomowoc and one student who you will hear from tonight from the northern burbs of Illinois. So it's kind of cool that we all got to see each other every week, even though we weren't necessarily geographically as close as it was last year. The class is basically set up to learn the filmmaking process from start to finish. So in the early weeks, we're talking about idea development, writing, all the way through the specific portions of film production. So cinematography, production design, all the way through editing and even what to do with your film once you have it completed. So kind of along that process, while the students are learning specific topics each week, we are able to have really unique guests join us as well. And once again, kind of a benefit of virtual course, we were able to have filmmakers from all around the country and even one from Canada join us this year. So just to like name drop a couple, we had local producer Marissa Williams join us. We had one of the editors of the documentary Boys State join us to talk about editing, Michael Volman. We even had the star of a Netflix show, You, join us. And I know the students were all excited about that. But special shout out to any guests that joined us this semester. I am positive that the wisdom you shared with the students had a really positive impact. And I think their films are the way they are because of the wisdom you shared with them. So thank you for joining us. And hopefully you get a chance to watch this Q&A and see the work that you influenced. So over the course of the semester, the students were tasked with making a film. And because we were going along with the filmmaking process, we basically started workshops on these films in our second week of the course. So we've all been hearing about these films for close to 20 weeks at this point. And we got to see them grow from where they started to where they are now, all the way until the final product that hopefully you've gotten to see as a part of the showcase that we're doing this Q&A for. If you haven't, I'll remind you at the end, it's available on Milwaukee Film Sofa Cinema. Definitely check out these films. The students are insanely talented, and I know they're excited to talk about those films with you in just a little bit here. In the off chance that you have not gotten to see the showcase yet or just need a little refresher, I'm going to play a little supercut of their films to get us started and get us in the mood to hear from them. A couple cool questions or comments really quick before I do that actually. Just kind of housekeeping stuff about the Q&A specifically. I am going to be facilitating the Q&A, so I'll ask the students a couple of questions that I have as backups, but the chat is up and running on YouTube and Facebook, so if you have a question for the students, feel free to type it in there, and we will do our best to address it so that you can hear the specific thoughts that you want them to address. So yeah, I think that is all of our housekeeping stuff. Excuse throughout this entire broadcast my looking down at my notes and also the clicking of my mouse, but we're gonna go ahead and get started watching this little supercut of all of the films. We'll be right back. The students make fun of me, but it does make me tear up watching all of their films, and especially the first time I watched the showcase. Just like insanely proud, which I'm sure you'll hear throughout this entire Q&A. But they put so much work into all of those, and I'm so glad if you've already seen them, you got a chance to see their work. And if not, I hope that was enticing enough to you to go check them out, because they are incredibly talented, every single one of them. That being said, I feel like you're probably ready to see them. We're not going to hear from them quite yet, but I'm going to bring each of them in just to do a quick introduction, and so you can see everybody who you're going to be hearing from tonight. So I'm going to bring them in one at a time. First up, we have Maddie. I'll have them give a little wave as they enter. Next up, we have Costello. Everyone say hi to Claudia. Next up, we have Quinn. They're all so excited. I can just see it in their faces. Now we have Spencer. And next up, we have Olivia. We're also going to be joined by Robert, but he's having a couple of technical difficulties. I'll try to bring him in. Just a gray screen. But we will hear from him later. Hopefully we can get the technical difficulties ironed out so that you can hear from him and hear about his masterpiece of a film, which is Untitled. We did also have two students who couldn't join us today, unfortunately, but they have videos that we'll play from them where they'll talk about their film very briefly. Now that everybody's here, we are going to perform a pre-rehearsed musical number that we got ready for everybody. And that, I'm just kidding. But I'm sure they all would jump at the opportunity because they're all stars. So yeah, you're going to be hearing from each of these students. We'll talk about their films individually. I'll remind you what their film is when we bring them on. But first, we're going to hear from our two students who unfortunately couldn't be here today, starting off with Dara. So here's Dara. Everybody say hello, and we'll talk to each of you students in just a little bit here.
Hi, I'm Dara Carneal, and I'm going to be a senior at Nicolay High School. The title of my short film to be is The Last Tea Party, and I haven't finished filming it yet, but I'll be showing a trailer of some of the stuff that I've done with it today. And this is the first screenplay that I've ever written and the first sort of production that I've put on, and I'm very excited to finish it and share the final product with all of you. Thank you so much for watching.
All right, there was Dara, and now we're going to hear from Colin.
Hello, I'm Colin Sandy. I'll be a senior at Nicolay High School, and the title of my film is called A Few Questions. It's a very simple film about just me asking strangers online about their perspectives on growing up. And really what I hope to gain out of this was I hope it resonates with people who may be similar to me, where, you know, that idea of growing up and going into adulthood may be a little scary. And really what I just want is for someone to look at it and be like, you know, it's gonna be okay, and it's, you know, we're gonna all get through it together, because you're not alone, because me and other people I've talked to online are experiencing the same thing. So that's what I hope to gain out of it. I did create the film in about 5 days, but because it's very simple, I think it will really, I think the answers that I've gotten from the strangers were just, I think that they'll put more of an impact on it and more of a focus on that rather than the quality of the film. But I'm still very passionate about it, and I've loved creating it every step of the way. So I hope you enjoy.
All right. I wish I had a little clap track that I could play for everybody, but unfortunately I don't. But for Colin and Dara, everybody virtually can clap for them. They put in a ton of work to this class, and we're very proud of them. So now, before I bring in each student, just so you kind of know how it's going to be run down, I'm going to pull up a still of the film for the student you're about to see. So our first Q&A is going to be happening with Spencer. So here's a still from Spencer's film, and I'll bring him in to start the Q&A. All right.
Hey,
hello, Spencer. How's it going?
It's going great, Ian. Good to see you. Good to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. So just to get started, I feel like, first of all, I need to just say, like, wow. This is actually, I mean, you can talk about it if you'd like, but was a kind of a last minute film, just because I know you had a bigger production planned. Maybe, do you want to address that at all or say anything?
Yeah, sure. I was working on something with Colin, and we got Colin was the guy from like 2 seconds ago who was talking about the thing he did online, but yeah, we got like halfway through that, and then our actors got grounded, so that could not work. So yeah, I made this in like 2 days, but I don't know, it's kind of rushed together, but you know, got it done.
Well, so that's why I want to bring it up, because I feel like, even though I know it came together very quickly, I was like very impacted by it. I feel like it was like a very thoughtful and like contemplative film. So do you want to talk at all about what inspired you to make a film about this topic, or what was going through your mind when you decided to make it?
Honestly, it's mostly just like, you know, I was staying at my friend's house at the time. My parents were out of town. So it's just stuff I've been talking about with him. And just, you know, I think about in general. So that's kind of where I got the idea from. And then it ended up with me just like pasting a bunch of stuff in his basement and like, hey, can you drive me to go buy balloons and a birthday cake for no reason? So I really just kind of trashed his basement. But yeah, I think the original idea came from me just talking to him.
I feel like I now also just really quick need to ask, did you make the birthday cake yourself, or that was pre-bought?
I did not. That was pre-bought. So I basically looked like I was buying myself birthday materials. Yeah.
Yeah. Little less impressive, but still very cool. Actually, yeah, one of my favorite parts of the film was the production design. Like, it was just very simple. Is that what you were going for? Yeah,
Yeah, it was. It was kind of necessity, just because I didn't really have a lot of money or time or space. Because, like I said, I shot this in my friend's basement, so it was pretty like I'm just gonna work with what I have. But yeah, I tried to arrange it in a way that still looked all right, and but could like get the message across. So that it was really just driven by necessity.
Yeah, but so then like with the images that pop up and kind of move behind you, was that all digital?
No, that wasn't. I actually like printed all of that stuff out and put it on the wall. The clips before that where it seems like appear on the wall, that stuff I did digitally. But yeah, I had to print everything out. So yeah, my friend just saw a million baby pictures of me coming out of the printer all day. So maybe a little weird for him, but yeah, everything was printed.
But still, the digital stuff was super impressive. I was intrigued about how you did it. So that's super cool. So I guess like because the topic is not heavy, but like growing up is something we all do, and this, like turning 18 is this kind of milestone. So I mean, I know you were just kind of talking about it with your friend, but what would you want the audience to walk away with having seen your film? Like what thoughts are going through your mind that you want other people to be thinking about?
Man, I'd say, it's not like I'm old, right? But getting older is tough, and you lose a lot of the stuff you had before. So it's really going to be hard either way. And I guess it comes down to a matter of like appreciating all the other stuff in your life. Just the little moments, and like what those build up and who those make you as a person. So, even though you're going to get older and not really going to enjoy it, you can still know like, oh, this is who I am as a person, and this is what makes up me.
Cool.
Yeah.
And you're feeling good now about turning 18. Did the film help you process through that at all?
Yeah, I feel, I don't know, I'm still kind of on the same tracks about it. But it was definitely a good, like a therapeutic exercise sort of. But yeah, it was, I think it was good.
Yeah, very impressed with the film. We're glad to hear from you. And I'll move on to the next Q&A. This is where I would play the virtual clap, but unfortunately I don't have that. All right, thanks so much, Spencer. Next up, I'm going to bring up the still for Claudia's film, and we're going to hear from Claudia. And in the background, you're just going to hear all of my clicking. And magically, there she is. How are you doing?
I'm good. Like, I can only see the still.
Oh, we can see you. Let me try turning it off and back on again.
I'm good now.
Okay, cool. Well, welcome. I'm excited to hear your thoughts on backyard shenanigans.
Yes.
Do you want to actually, Spencer, I'm so sorry that we didn't do this with you, but Claudia, do you want to start our process of, do you want to introduce yourself, what year in school you're in and what school you go to, and then give us like a brief little reminder of what your film is.
Yeah, so I'm Claudia. I'm 16, and I mean, the whole film was just about, well, I'm sorry, I'm a junior now. The whole film was just about like these little clips of my backyard because it was just something kind of simple and I like simplicity. So, and I had like this backyard at my hand. So I just wanted to utilize what I had with me just because of COVID, because I didn't really want to have to go through the process of casting and crew and like location scouting. So I was just like, let me bring my phone out to the backyard and just like kind of go crazy there. So yeah, it's just what it was.
Well, but I kind of touched in that, talking about doing an all virtual class, as well as I feel like that was what was so brilliant about a lot of the films, is that they were made just simply by like exploring the world around you that's like always at your fingertips. So what was it about your backyard that was like, this is something like that's a little unique that I feel like people should see?
I think just the fact that it's like a pretty good like size because it's not really like elongated behind my house. It's more like it wraps around my house. So like I even have like a front yard that's pretty spacious because it's just like my house and then like just this kind of like grassy area. So I just thought, you know, why not? Because we also have like a bunch of like memorabilia, like trinkets out there, like random antiques that we find at like thrift stores and things like that, because my family is pretty I don't know, like resourceful. So we like gardening and like buying just like weird animals made of stone to like put out there. So it was just like whatever we had, and I just thought that was kind of nice. And yeah.
And I feel like throughout the semester we heard like little rumblings of there possibly being fairies that live there, or
Okay, so like there we have like fairy gardens. I didn't put them all in there. Like there's a lot that I didn't film of my backyard, but there's like these little fairy houses that we've had since I was like 5. We haven't lived here since I was 5, but like we just had them in our like all of our backyards. But we kind of like we don't like believe in like the legend because that's like a whole thing, but like apparently fairies are dangerous and you're not supposed to like actually give them things, otherwise they want your soul. So like you actually can't like interact, but like we still have the houses because we think that it's like cool.
I think they're cool. I would want them in my backyard. So something that I'm interested about just like in the making of the film is that you kind of have to think about like what the audience is going to see, and you kind of, especially with something like your backyard, how did you approach it with fresh eyes, like looking at all of the details, like something you see almost every day? How did you approach that with like fresh eyes?
I usually just kind of focused on specific items in the backyard rather than like a general area. So I wouldn't just like sit in the middle of the grass and, you know, kind of like film the ground, more as I would just kind of stand somewhere and look around and see what like object I could pick out and then maybe go from there. So if there's like the bird bath that's next to this like stone pile that's next to a frog or something, then I would just kind of go from there and just like take little steps. So I would like do like circles around my backyard with my phone, I guess.
Do you feel like you discovered anything new, or like you kind of know your backyard like the back of your hand at this point?
I think I know my backyard really well. I didn't put animals in the video just because I thought that would be like a little too much to kind of navigate, just because it's kind of like an irregular pattern. So I didn't want to have to like get like 1 second of an animal and then never see it again. So, but we do have like animals back there. So I guess that's like the only thing that like really changes, but yeah.
Like pets or wild animals?
Wild animals, we do not let the
cat. Had to clarify.
Yes.
Pets are very important to this class. I'm intrigued about your song choice as well. Yes. What about it grabbed your attention?
So, I like the White Stripes, number 1. Number 2, the song itself is just kind of nostalgic, and I feel like my backyard feels really nostalgic because it's more like a childhood concept to kind of take walks around your backyard, because that was like the only thing that was like available to you, you know, like when you're a child, you're not really thinking like, you know, I have to do this essay right now, so like let's go out in the backyard. But I don't know, I just thought of that. And then I also really like Napoleon Dynamite, and they use that in the credit opening scene, and I just thought like that's a good song to put in the back of something, so I just used it.
Nice. One thing that I think is really interesting that has come up a couple times is like earlier on in the semester, hearing like a couple of different ideas you had to now like the final film you made. You said that this isn't like something that you normally like would make or represent you, but having like finished the film, how do you feel about making a film like this? Or is it you?
I think it's me to an extent because I made it, but I think that there are a lot of different, more complicated films that would have taken a lot longer than a couple months to make that would have made me feel more accurately represented. but I think I'm pretty content with how it turned out. I mean, this is like my first thing I've ever really like truly like put like production into, like the whole editing and things like that, and I still like needed a lot of help. So like I would have been a lot happier if I had like maybe more time to like, truly write something, because I did like go through like so many things. Like I wrote a script for one thing, and then I tried writing a thing for another, and then I just kept like going through, and then essentially I started filming this I think at like the middle of May, and then I just edited it, and then I like put it out. I mean, it's not like it was rushed, but moreover, like it was kind of like one of the last ideas that I had that I wasn't like completely like against. Like I didn't hate it all the way, so I was like, let's just put this out there. So it's basically the process.
No, I think you should be very proud with what you made. I think it represents well. And now that the class is over and you have all of this training, like now you can make that next big film. So we'll keep an eye out for what's coming next from Claudia. And I'm very excited. I think everybody else should be too.
Okay.
I believe in you, and I'll be here to help you make it as well. So, as well as the rest of the class. I'm sure they're all like giving a thumbs up in the video. All right. Well, I'm gonna move on to our next Q&A. Thank you so much, Claudia. We'll talk to you soon. Next up, we are going to hear from Quinn. The awkward silent clicking. It's going to kill me every time. Hello, Quinn.
Hello, Ian.
How's it going?
Oh, I'm doing phenomenal. How are you?
I'm having a great time. All right. So now that I am remembering what to do, could you please introduce yourself, what year you're in school and what school you're at, and then give us a brief description of your film.
Yeah, my name is Quinn. I'm going to be a junior at DSHA, and my film was called A Medium Day at the Park. And it's about these two teenagers who go to a park for a picnic and feel like they sense a spirit because they're kind of self-proclaimed mediums. So they give these kind of unsolicited readings to everyone else at the park.
So without name dropping, having known like where the idea came from, can you give us a general story of how this film came to you?
I knew I wanted to make something like lighthearted, but this specific thing was based on something that happened to me at work. It was a woman who came up to me and told me she sensed a lot of spirits around me, and gave me very general descriptors that like didn't really be much of anything. Yeah, so that's what it was based on. And then I just had two of my friends take on that persona.
Well, that was something I wanted to bring up, is I feel like aside from the script, which is already hilarious, it's brought to life by these amazing performances by your two leads. And I know you kind of put a little effort into the casting process. What was that like for you?
So after I wrote it, I was kind of picturing, like when I first wrote it, I thought it was going to be these like a very like awkward interaction, which it kind of was, I guess, but I was picturing the main leads to be like awkward as well. But two of my friends came to mind who are both very charismatic and like loud in the nicest way. And they had actually never met before the day that we filmed. It was a friend I knew from middle school and a friend from high school. And I brought them together and they did amazing, I thought.
Yeah, the chemistry was incredible. And then like, was there any like improv on set? Kind of as they met and found their chemistry, what was that like, having the script and then being on set making it?
Yeah, I think there definitely were times where I think the first thing that comes to mind is when they're getting in the face of Jennifer and they say nobody wants to contact you from the beyond. It was originally one of them was supposed to say that, and they were like, what if we just did that in unison to like really stick it to her? And they both just added like a lot of their own movements. Emma, the main lead, wanted to carry around the Timothy Chalamet candle I had the whole time. So she has that in her hand. And Sarah, the other lead, really put in a lot. She was like flipping her cardigan around, and she had crystal she was sticking in people's faces. But yeah, they definitely found a good balance, I thought.
Yeah, and that brings up another thing too, is I know you were very intentional about production design and all of these little knickknacks that you wanted them to have with them. So what was your process of deciding those things and getting those things?
For most of it, I went to Goodwill. That's where I found the two angels that are in the title card, as well as the like hand crystal ball thing. Emma was dressed in all of her own clothes, but Sarah was dressed from Goodwill head to toe. She showed up wearing a t-shirt and jeans, and she put a skirt and a cardigan over those. I think some of the props were mine. The candle was mine, and like the praying frog. But I was really just looking for like hippie type memorabilia, I guess.
That was a very important follow-up to my question. Was the Timothy Chalamet candle something that you just always have around?
Yes, that's something I've had in my possession that I thought this would be of good use.
Timothy has to make a cameo in this film. I think you should credit him on IMDb for his role in this film.
Yes, I think so.
I think you should.
Without
yeah.
Without his knowledge, I should credit him.
Yeah, and he will sense that he was in the film. Last thing I wanted to bring up was the song at the beginning is incredible. Where did you get it? What drew you to that song?
That was composed by another girl in the film, Emma Rader, who played Jennifer. She made it for a class, I believe. It was an assignment to just like make a song. And she showed it to me and she was like, hey, you should use this in your film. And I feel like she thought it was like a joke at first, but I was like, you know, it fits a little bit. Like the storyline, I thought the Something for Your Mind, like just really fit the colors and everything I was going for. I think she was surprised to find that I actually used it, but I think she liked that she got her like credit as well for it, because it is amazing.
I'm glad she got the credit. We do have a quick question in the chat, which looks like has already been answered by one of the actresses from the film, but were they real mediums in real life?
I think that's up for you to decide as the audience, because spoiler if you haven't seen it, but at the end they do find a connection to a bird in a tree. So if, you know, you can either be the Jennifer and think, oh, this is stupid, or you can be like, oh no, they actually did have talent because they connected with something.
Wow. Much to think about.
Yes.
Something for your mind.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Thank you so much, Quinn. I play the clap.
Thank you.
And I'm going to bring in our next Q&A, which is going to be with Costello. And here is a beautiful still image from the film of Costello looking very cool. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the Q&A. So I'll have you introduce yourself, if that's okay.
Yeah, I'm Costello Malott. I'm going to be a senior at Rufus King. My film is called Nostalgia. It's about a man being terrorized by this evil being.
Cool. We love people being terrorized by evil beings. So one thing I wanted to bring up, having heard about the making of the film, is that you had a really interesting way of preparing for your shoot, or in a way rehearsing. Could you walk us through your process?
Yeah, after I had nailed down a basic outline, I come from a background of theater where we get plenty of time to rehearse and try things out. So I thought I should try using that for this film process, and I got together with my friend, and we basically went through the script and just filmed it with an iPhone. It took about an hour, and it just provided a nice rough cut or outline of what I wanted the final thing to be like.
And some of those shots were like almost piece by piece exactly what ended up in the film, except it wasn't you in the rehearsals. You were behind the camera, correct?
Yeah. It was very helpful, and just getting what I had in my mind out for other people involved in the process to see and help me create more professionally or polished.
Yeah, so that process definitely worked for you.
Yeah.
Cool. I know you're a big horror guy. What were some of your like influences or inspirations for nostalgia?
I love your typical haunted house films like The Conjuring, and then stuff like Sinister with that suburban feel helped influence all of that. And then a huge inspiration for me is Ari Aster, and I took from him his like very distinct vision and themes. And then his scores are also something that I took a lot from because I did my own music. So he provided a really nice guideline of what I wanted it to sound like. Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed in the credits that you composed the music. What was that process like?
It was a lot of fun. I love just messing around on different instruments, and having the film kind of gave me something to follow, gave me a reason to make music, and it was a lot of fun. I'm really happy with how it turned out.
Yeah, you should be. Another thing that I think is super impressive, if hopefully the people watching have seen your film by this point, is that you are the star of the film as well. What was it like to direct from in front of the camera?
It was difficult because you have to split your brain in between making sure you don't look completely idiotic on camera and then managing everyone else helping out in the background. And it was also useful because I didn't have to communicate with as many actors on what I wanted to happen. But it was also it was challenging and helpful. It was a nice mix.
For sure. So there's also like kind of a lot of effects in there, being a professional horror film that was made. What was like your favorite scene to shoot, or like special effect that you got to pull off?
There were a lot of very, very fun ones to make, and I love how they all turned out. But my favorite is definitely in the living room when he looks at the pictures and the knocking starts. I got that little spook from A Haunting of Hill House, and originally I was planning to do it in post and just add in knocking sound effects, but I managed to wrangle my whole family at like 10 at night to go outside and have timers and knock on the windows all around the room at once, and it miraculously worked, and I was just very pleased with how that turned out.
Yeah, I was super impressed. I had heard about you describing that scene being filmed, but then seeing it in the final product. Yeah, it's crazy to think that you actually had family members outside the window, like banging to make that scary moment actually like real for you as an actor as well. And of course, I have to bring up the end credits sequence. After the credits are done, there's a little tease. So can you give us a little bit more about what's next in the nostalgia cinematic universe?
I always had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to continue this, just because I find all of it so interesting. And from the beginning, I wanted to, tease it a little. And I like how it turned out, and I'm definitely excited to potentially make more.
We all will be eagerly awaiting Nostalgia 2. All right, Costello, thank you so much. Claptrap. I'm going to bring in our next Q&A, which will be with Robert, and we're going to hope that our technical difficulties are all working out. I can see he's ready to go. Oh, Costello is still here. You can join us for the Q&A, a double Q&A with Costello and Robert. Robert, how are you doing? I'm so glad we got the technical stuff aside.
Yeah, for now at least.
Yeah, we'll try to get the Q&A going and hope that everything stays working. So I know you don't want to talk too much about the meaning of the film, but I'll have you introduce yourself, and then to the best of your ability, what is your film?
All right, I am Robert Rizolski. I go to Warren Township High School in near Gurnee, Illinois. I'm going into 10th grade, and what else should I say?
However you want to describe your film. I know you don't want to give us too much, but
I don't want to describe my film. It's not meant. I don't want to give any sort of. I don't want it to be like a definitive meaning. I just want people to find their own meaning.
I figured, I know you had said that throughout the semester, and I will respect that because I love reading my own meaning into it. And everybody I've talked to about it has kind of different experiences of it. So I think that is working well for you. So I just wanted to see if you wanted to address anything about it. But you're kind of a film buff, so I guess talking about the film from different angles, did you have any specific influences or inspirations for making this film?
Well, I was well with the a big when it came to the sort of strangeness of it, I could say it was inspired somewhat by David Lynch films, and the sound design was it was kind of sort of Eraserhead-esque. If you've seen it, it's got a very interesting soundtrack, which is just ambient noises. And I tried to sort of emulate a Kubrick style with the cinematography, and with the wide angles and kind of in the sort of symmetry, I guess.
Yeah, I can definitely see all of those influences in there. So I feel like you did an amazing job at, but at the same time, creating your own style. I feel like this is very Robert from start to finish. What was the process for you making the film? It seems as if it was maybe made just all by you, but maybe you had. What was the process?
Well, it went through several idea stages, and this is my final one, and I'm proud of it. I think that for what it is, I got everything I wanted to get done. Well, the filmmaking process, it was all me. I operated the camera. I sort of found the places. I sort of tried to figure out where I could get good shots in my house, and I also had to play with the lighting a little to get the sort of how I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be not too dark, but not very light either.
Yeah.
However, I did have my brother help with the final scene.
Oh, the light turning off?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great effect. So ominous. Well, so that's the thing. I don't want to read too much, but from my interpretation, there's a little bit of an ominousness to the film. And I feel like I have a similar question to my wondering about Claudia, exploring a place that she sees every day. What was it like for you kind of seeing your house in a different view or making it feel a little ominous?
Well, it was very interesting because I've never actually seen this house as very ominous. It's a very bright, open, airy house, so I was trying to almost like turn it into something it wasn't, and I think it worked out well. Because I could see I actually came up with a lot of the ideas from just walking around it at night one time, and I knew I could see how it could, if I played with the lighting, it could look very creepy. If anyone doesn't, or at least I tried to make it look creepy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think you succeeded, but also not necessarily creepy. But yeah, it's cool how you kind of made it seem small and confined, even though by your description it's pretty bright and cozy.
Yeah.
And yeah, you already brought up this specific portion or aspect of the film, but the thing that stuck with me the most was your sound design, which I know was described as maybe influenced by Eraserhead, but what were you going for with that kind of ambient wind and noise in the background?
Well, that I didn't actually film with. I didn't actually include any sound taken from the shooting. It was all mute, but I was trying to give it a sort of because I think that if I shot, I wouldn't want to use music because there's nothing really to use music for. But if I tried to just go with silence, I didn't really like the idea of just going with pure silence either, because it would be kind of boring and also kind of awkward, and I wouldn't be able to get the sort of mood. With these strange ambient noises, I was trying to use it so we'll get this sort of ambiguous feeling, but also kind of ominous. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just use strange sounds from various sources. Yeah.
I think it worked out super well. Every aspect. Was this your first film?
No, I made a film like a 2-minute film with a couple friends of mine in a nature preserve once. It was Star Wars-y. We went out, we played with guns and yeah. I also shot that film. And
yeah, this one being all you, just from start to finish, I think is very impressive. So great.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to the next Q&A. Thanks so much, Robert.
Thank you.
Next up, we're going to hear from Maddie. Moment. I'm not going to leave Robert in this time. Here we go.
Hello.
Hi, Maddie. How's it going?
Good.
Do you want to start by introducing yourself and
Yeah.
a little bit about your film?
Yeah, so I'm Madeline O'Connell. I go to Shorewood High School. I'm going to be a junior next year. And I made the film. I didn't really come up with a title for it, but I just called it Living Lens. And it's a little bit about kind of how I've always been kind of attached to cameras, and I've always been behind them and making stuff. And they've kind of been like a therapeutic sort of thing for me, throughout the years and stuff like that, especially through middle school.
Yeah, up front, I just wanted to thank you for sharing such an intimate kind of diary film of sorts, kind of processing through your thoughts. I think it was really impactful. What was the process making? What was the process of making the film for you because it was a little bit more intimate?
So it's funny. I actually have something. So a lot of the footage I got off of this hard drive, I have an old, like so many little old Samsung flip camera. That was the very first camera I ever had. Like my mom would let me kind of just go around and play with her camera, like play with her little point and shoots and stuff like that. When she get a little when I'd be a little bit of a punk, she'd just give me a camera and just tell me to go off and do whatever. But yeah, it was a little bit difficult because it was a very hard year for me, middle school. Um, and over quarantine, a lot of stuff kind of came to the surface, like a lot of stuff I had to try and go through and process. And I've always kind of used art to kind of help get me through tough situations and stuff like that. Um, but there were some times where I kind of had to take a break from it and kind of step out of the room for a little bit. But like that's kind of the reason why I didn't really use any sound. In fact, I just used a camera shutter because it's kind of like a heartbeat a little bit. Um, and I thought that like that kind of helped tied it all together and stuff with the fact that the camera has kind of become a part of me, and you don't really see me without one. I never leave the house without one.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up the camera shuttering specifically because I think it was such a unique choice to use only that as the soundtrack, just kind of this repetitive shuttering. And I know you had mentioned before you kind of wanted it to act as a heartbeat, so it kind of like lulls you into the feeling of the film. And there's also the moment where it kind of picks up pace as the text gets a little bit more dark. So yeah, I think that was a really cool choice. And obviously, you are big into cinematography. I know that, having known you now for a couple of years. Can you tell us more about your love of cameras, or what got you started with them, or why you're drawn to them?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer the question in the chat. So the reason why I call it Living Lens because I really had a hard time coming up with a name for it. Because it's so intimate, it's really hard to really identify that and give it a quantifiable name for stuff. So it's more of like a working title. But I call it like the living lens because it's kind of become. I kind of see like cameras as sort of like, like kind of like a way that kind of like the way that like some motorcycle riders kind of personify their bikes or whatever. And my camera has kind of like become my friend over the years, and it's been like something I could always count on, something I always knew would work, and I always knew would be for me, and all that stuff. But yeah, I actually when I first held like a camera, like a full on I've had my DSLR since middle school. I got it in I think 8th grade, and before that, I've mostly just been shooting with like phones and like little flip cameras, stuff people give me just to have fun and stuff. But like what really just draws me to them is that you have like total control over what you're doing, especially with digital cameras and stuff like that. Recently, I've been getting into film photography. I shot a couple rolls of 35 millimeter. But what I just really love is just like kind of like it's kind of almost like a little bit of magic behind it. Like, like the science of how, something sitting in front of a camera becomes an image. I've always just been fascinated by that. And I used to be like fascinated by like news cameras, and I'd always be like pointing out like, oh, look at that. I wish I had that and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I know for the film, you kind of tapped into some of the archive footage that you had from when you first got your camera. How did you go about picking what footage to use for the film?
I mostly went through like I kind of looked at like a color palette, sort of, and I noticed a lot of the footage was kind of dark. And it's kind of interesting because you see later in the film, I added some very current footage that Oh, I didn't know it said lens. I thought it said lens. Interesting. I guess I should fix that. It's probably just the font. Living lens is what it's supposed to be. But thank you for pointing that out. That's slightly embarrassing. So yeah, so like I kind of just what I did was I kind of was looking at different footage, different pieces of footage, and I kind of wanted them to flow organically. So I was kind of looking at the direction that I was panning, and kind of connecting those all together. It was almost like I was kind of like almost composing something a little bit. So I wanted it to flow neatly into the next clip and the next clip. I didn't really want to have to cut too much in between, because that kind of is a little, it kind of breaks it up a little bit when you cut it.
Yeah, I think the editing flowed really smoothly throughout the film. And last question I will ask for you is, I think it was a really interesting choice to use the text as kind of like a voiceover. Did you have a specific thought process about that?
Yeah, so I do have a bit of a fear of hearing my own voice. But mostly I just thought that it would just be better instead of having to hear like me talk about it. I'd rather just kind of show you sort of like my moods in that situation, and kind of showing you and like you can read it and you can kind of just imagine what it would sound like if I were reading it instead of me just giving it to you. And I feel like when you read something, you kind of soak it in a little bit better than if you were hearing it. I just think that it's a little bit more instrumental when you read something than if you hear it.
Yeah, I agree. It helped me kind of like feel as if I was saying it myself and internalizing what you were feeling. So I think it was really well. Well, Maddie, thank you so much for joining us for this Q&A and for sharing your film with us. Such a personal one.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. All right, up next we're going to hear from Olivia. Pull up the still and bring her on in. Hello.
Hi.
Every time I just, hey, how's it going?
How's it going?
All right, do you want to start by introducing yourself and a little bit about your film?
Awesome. So I'm Olivia. I'm going to be a senior at Homestead High School next year. And my film was about two sisters who happen to be my mom and my aunt. And they're just really special bond and like the memories that they share.
Yeah, I definitely get that bond just from watching the film. I wanted to start kind of at the start of the process because I know originally the film was going to be something else and this was going to be a part of that film, but things kind of shifted around a little bit. Do you want to talk about what that process was and how you ended with Here We Are?
Yeah, so, okay, yeah, here we are now. But it really changed a lot because it started as like, I was going to take people to their favorite places and they were going to tell me like why they like them so much. And then I was like, oh, I'll do my mom and my aunt because they're like really close. And then I shot with them and I got like an hour of footage. And I was like, okay, I can just make something out of this.
Yeah, well, they have such like a charisma too. I feel like you have to just think like, oh, I need to showcase this itself.
Oh, God. Yeah, they're something else.
Yeah, so what was it about their relationship that immediately you were like, oh, this is its own film?
So I don't really know. I think they're just so, I don't know. They've just shared so much in their life, and you can just see that through the way they talk, and they have just like they get each other so quickly. And I just wanted to showcase that because I've witnessed it like every other day. Like I see my aunt all the time. So I just wanted the audience to be like, oh my God, like these two are, on a different level of just sisterhood.
Yeah, what was it like for you, knowing your mom obviously and your aunt you see often? What was it like kind of hearing some of these other stories that you might not have already known?
Oh, I knew the stories. I picked very, very intentionally because I knew about the marathon story. That was like their sister moment. Like they talk about it all the time. They're like, yep, sister of the year. So I knew that that was going to be in there. I had to put that in there. But the stuff about camping, I hadn't heard about as much. And yeah, it's just so cool to hear about like all their little adventures. I don't know why. It's just so cool.
Yeah, what was like even the beginning part of the film? What was that like, going back to their favorite spot with them and kind of like reliving what they went through?
Yeah, that was very fun because we were there all day and we literally just drove around this campsite for like 2 hours. I was like, maybe let's go up to the place that we're supposed to go. And then we finally did, and we made it up there. And they were just like, before we even started filming, they were just talking and talking and talking about like all these memories they had. And they're like, oh, remember when we went up here with, you know, our brother and the first time when we climbed up the front? And I was like, oh my God, I have so much to work with. Like, I have my work cut out for me. I did.
Yeah. That was another question I had was, I mean, going through the photos and just, yeah, hearing them talk, like I'm sure you had a wealth of footage. You said it was how long, how much footage?
About an hour. And
Okay.
that's like not even, it wasn't even that hard for me to go through because I just know what is important. And sometimes they go off on little tangents and I'm like, nope, we don't need this. Like I to the point. So yeah, it was fun to watch it all. But it just felt like I was sitting with them having a conversation and just like observing. And that's just how they talk all the time.
Well, it's good that you can like objectively think now, like, oh, this is just when they're like rambling off, but this is what we really need to hear about.
Yeah.
What was
some of the stuff I hadn't heard them say before, like the part when she was like, oh, you know, it doesn't matter what we think about other people, blah, blah, blah. Like we're still sisters. I was like, hold up. Like I need this in there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of like very poetic moments. What was the choice of going back through the photos? I feel like that's such a visually interesting part of the film.
That's like my favorite part actually. But originally I just needed one picture for the part when they're like standing and holding the picture, and that turned into them looking through photos for the picture they needed. So I was like, there's so much to work with here. And I just sat with the camera and I was like, all right, go through the pictures and tell me what's going on here. So it worked. And I'm really proud of that part. And them holding the pictures up to me I was like, hey, can you hold this up? And it turned into that little montage that I really love.
Which makes you cry as well. That's a part where I get misty.
Yeah, I'm a crier. I cried editing that out. No shame.
And I'm sure they also got a little teary watching it back, like seeing their relationship.
Yeah, my aunt was texting me. She's like, "Oh my God, I'm crying." And my mom was like, I watched it with her, and she was like, I was like, "You're crying."
Really quick, last thing, we have to know more about the Jeff Probst photo. I am a self-proclaimed Survivor stan, so it was very important to me. But give us a little taste of that story.
Yes, so I debated putting that in, that little story, but they went to a Survivor, like, I don't even know what it was. It was like a showcase or something, a meet and greet. That's what it was, a meet and greet. And they last minute got to meet Jeff Probst and like the whole cast of, I think, seasons 1 through 3 or something like that of Survivor. And yeah, Jeff Probst apparently loved them. That's what they tell me.
Of course he did.
No,
we all love them now. They're all our moms and aunts.
Yes, they would love that.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Olivia, for talking about your I'm actually going to keep you on, and I'm going to bring everybody else back into the stream. You are our last Q&A, so I'll bring everybody back on so we can get one last exciting look at everyone. Here you have it, our class of 2021 high school filmmaking course group. A couple that couldn't be with us tonight, but they're here with us in spirits. Just want to congratulate you all for your amazing work. This showcase is very impactful to me, and I'm sure it feels the same to people as well. Just as a reminder, in case anybody in the audience hasn't watched the films, they are available on Sofa Cinema. You can access that through Milwaukee Film's website. And they're going to be available until July 14th. So you have plenty of time to go watch them, and then maybe circle back to watch this Q&A so you can hear all of the students talk about their amazing work. All right, well, I'm going to sign us off for Milwaukee Film. I hope everybody has a good rest of their night and goes to watch The Future of Filmmaking on Sofa Cinema. See you later.